Joining us is James Lynch, Middle East and North Africa press officer for Amnesty International, fresh back, I think literally just hours from Cairo. Thanks for joining us on such short notice, James.
Thank you. Good evening.
So first of all, tell us, how long were you in Cairo and what was the extent of your travel there and what were you involved in?
I was in Cairo as part of a delegation from Amnesty International, a research team, a small team of three, which we deployed on Sunday. We'd actually wanted to go on Saturday, but our plane from London was turned around due to the security situation, which delayed us. And I returned last night, leaving the rest of the team there. What we were doing was we deployed at short notice because of the deteriorating human rights situation, to monitor developments on the ground, and also to particularly look into the events around the protest, after the 25th.
Tell me a little bit about while you were there, specifically where in Cairo were you? Were you in the area that has been the topic of 90% of news around the world for the last week? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in and around Tahrir Square, which is where the demonstrations are focused, or have been focused. I spent time with protesters, and it was a very it was a very unusual environment. Tahrir Square is usually a very busy square full of traffic, and the protesters have had effectively taken over the square. What you had was, to enter the square, every single entrance to the square, and there's about 7 of them, initially you have to pass through an army roadblock, an army block where there would be army soldiers who would search you. This is because effectively, when I arrived, the police and riot police had vanished from the city. That was following 2 days of extreme violence over Friday the 28th and Saturday the 29th of January. So the army had taken over effectively the kind of policing in central Cairo.
So basically what you're saying here is to get to the point at which a lot of the physical conflicts that we're seeing reported on TV were taking place, there was a very clear staging and entry process. It's not just a free-for-all the way many people believe it is.
Absolutely right. Yeah, every single checkpoint I came to, my bag was searched very thoroughly, and so it was searched by the army to begin with, and then every single stage until you got to Tahrir Square, and my ID was checked every time.
Did you feel that you were in danger? Were you personally attacked? How is it delineated? I mean, we heard Anderson Cooper, the American journalist, was attacked yesterday. Is there a clear delineation between who is press and observers and who are, I don't know, participants in the violence?
Well, I think the distinction that's important to make here is I left Cairo just at the point at which the first pro-Mubarak rally was about to take place. I literally, as I stepped onto the plane, I saw on the TV screens that it was starting. Until that point, when I was in Tahrir Square, I never felt threatened by anything other than potential crowd surge. People were very friendly. Of course, you are treated differently as a foreigner or as an observer. So the assumption, most people assumed that I was a journalist until I explained that I was actually here in Cairo with a human rights organization.
Can you address how was it risky, or was the situation for you to get back to the airport and leave? Were you on a commercial flight? And was this all still, like you said, before the situation escalated upon your leaving?
I mean, it's worth saying. I mean, I came back. I planned to come back on that day anyway. I wasn't, it wasn't a sort of decision that I had to leave.
Yeah.
But on the same flight as me were, loads of the people on that flight were evacuating. There were people from different organizations. It was an absolutely packed flight. So people were already seeing that the situation was too volatile.
And was this a commercial flight that you were on?
Yes, it was. I was very lucky. My flight was not cancelled. A lot of others were, and that's why a lot of governments are clearly putting on charter flights for people.
Let's address we originally heard it was 1, and now it's been confirmed that there are 2 of your colleagues at Amnesty International that are being detained in Cairo. Can you tell me a bit about what were they there to do? Was it a similar role to yours? And what do you know about their detention?
Yeah, I mean, they were part of the same delegation I was with. They were researchers who were, speaking to medical sources, speaking to eyewitnesses to events, speaking to human rights activists, and they were there to assess the situation, to build a picture, to document abuses, and to bring those to the world. And what's happened is that they were in the Hisham Mubarak Law Center, which is not far from Tahrir Square in central Cairo. This center is one of the key human rights centers in the center of Cairo. It works on behalf of protesters. It works on behalf of detainees, of victims of abuse of the extremely politically repressed system in Egypt. It was working to provide support to those who had been detained, to help with to help people who'd been injured, to try to document who had died as well, and to try to work with the victims' families. So it's a very, very important centre and a key partner for Amnesty International and for other international human rights NGOs. They were. These two members of our team were in the centre at that point, working in partnership with the local activists. When what we understand were military police surrounded the building. And this, it's probably worth saying, to just build the broader picture, this was in the same environment, as you say, where journalists were being attacked, have been arrested, international and local, where camera equipment is being confiscated from journalists. So at the same time as you had a crackdown on journalists, you also had a crackdown on human rights activists and organizations across the country.
Do you know the conditions of where they are being held?
No. So first of all, the military police surrounded the building. Then they entered the building and held a number of activists, including the two Amnesty International researchers, and then they detained them and removed them from the centre. And we do not have any information about where they are.
Have you had any contact with them, or is this all based on the fact that you cannot get a hold of them?
We spoke to them as the security forces were surrounding the property, and in fact, we took a recording of the phone call from one of the members, which is on the Amnesty International website for people who are interested to hear it. And we spoke to them up until the point the security forces entered, and at which point their phones were it was impossible to reach them on their phones. One of them their phone was answered, but then it wasn't possible to talk to them. So it
do you have reason to believe that their lives are in danger? Do you have reason to believe that they are being held, but they are okay? I mean, what are you going on at this point?
We have absolutely no information about them. What we're doing is working. We are doing as well as making as much noise in public about this as we can to try and exert pressure on the Egyptian authorities. We're also working through various different, official channels, the relevant authorities. But I must make clear, I mean, they are two among a much larger group of human rights workers from other international organisations and local. So it's not just them. We are deeply concerned about our own staff. They're friends of ours. I was out there in Cairo with them, so I'm very worried at a personal level. But we have to focus on the fact as well that there is a much broader issue here. There are people being detained across the city, and
absolutely. James Lynch, Middle East and North Africa press officer from Amnesty International. Best of luck to you and to your colleagues and to everybody in Cairo. Thanks so much for doing this on short notice. We're very grateful.
Thanks a lot. Good to speak to you.
Okay, thanks.